Hey, y'all. Guess what? It's Friday. Little news. Okay, so Tim's James is not here. He's dealing with some family stuff. So it's just me in the captain's chair tonight. I got no co pilot. It's dangerous, isn't it? Without a co pilot here, who knows what can happen? Anyway, I got Jackie Ronco in the house tonight. She's going to be joining us talking about her mediumship. Not just that, but there's more. She has been involved with some psychedelics in the past, and she's had some experiences, and she's liable to take people down that road into the dark recesses. Not only that, but the light recesses of the universe and finding out what lies beneath. So she's going to be joining us here in a little bit. I've got a quick little story I'd like to jump in and tell you guys about what happened to me today. Holy cow. We had an 8-inch water line get hit on the job. And you want to talk about water flooding a job site? It was insanity. And they're sitting there trying to cap it. In fact, they're probably still there on the job right now trying to fix this thing. Their business is without water right now. In fact, I didn't get home until about like an hour and a half ago and tried to run through and get things set up. All the lights turned on, trying to get some food, everything, something to drink before the show. So I've been running my little rear end off. And for a 52-year-old man, it's been a lot. But I am, without a doubt, able to do it. So let's start welcoming people in. We've got Kitty Cat Whack here. She looks like she was number one. I don't know. Now I've got a bunch of green lines on the right-hand side. Mel WD40, Paramar. We got Aaron. We got Deb from SAC. We got Lil Cam. All the usuals are in the house tonight. Welcome, welcome. We got Rockin' Ronnie. We got Matthew. We've got T-Bone. We've got Walker. We've got David. Holy cow, look at these people coming in. You guys, I appreciate you. Hey, if you ever want to get on and talk with me on the show, you're welcome to. Just let me know on Facebook. You can contact me on Facebook at Lee Strauss, and I can get you on. I'd love to have a conversation. And not only that, I think some of our viewers, you all out there, would like to see some of the people that come in every week to view the show talk with me. So that would be good. I would love it. Andrew and Gnomes Trucking, thank you for coming in. We already said Cosmic Joe Chronicles, but welcome again, sir. All right, let's see. Kitty Cat Whack, thank you very much for the $4.99. We do appreciate that here at Spaced Out Radio. We do. I would love to see Jackie Harmon come back on. Yes, absolutely. I'm in talks with her. By the way, there's a little news with Jackie Harmon, my past co-host. She is actually moving to Florida. She is buying a home there. And I might go see her when she gets all moved in. We got Jerry Carter, Louisville, and Brenda Bright in the house. Okay, let me go ahead and run that intro, and they'll get right in with Jackie talking about this crazy stuff that happens if we do psychedelics, or what we might see.
Oh, dear Lord, it's these two ass clowns again. Well, now that you're here, you might as well sit down and get comfortable.
Welcome to the dimension of the unknown, where the imagination reigns supreme, crafting worlds and realities that defy the limitations of our mortal coil. Beyond the veil of reality, there exists a realm that defies the boundaries of human perception. Certain places beckon with an otherworldly allure, stirring the senses and whispering secrets of a dimension that lies just beyond the threshold of our mundane existence. The air is alive with an electric anticipation, as if the next step might unravel the very fabric of reality, plunging us into an abyss from which there is no return. This realm is a boundless expanse, as infinite as the cosmos and as timeless as the ages. It inhabits the twilight zones of existence, where the glow of knowledge and the shadows of ignorance entwine like lovers in a cosmic dance. Here, the rational and the mystical converge, suspended between the depths of human terror and the pinnacle of our understanding. Welcome to Element 115.
All right, Jackie, welcome to Element 115.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Hey, I'm glad you could come along for this exciting ride. In fact, you're the one that brought the roller skates. So I'm going to dive right into it with you. And I want you to tell us how you got into what it is that you do.
Okay, so it's a rather long story, so I'm going to shorten this part, okay, because we got other big parts to talk about. But my journey actually started as a medium when I was 17 years old. I had a couple friends that passed in a car accident, and it was really strange because on that day I was on my dad's boat on the lake, and the accident happened on the bridge above us. So I had no idea that it was them. So later that night, I found out that they had passed away, and one of my friends, Mike, was standing in the doorway, and I could see him like I'm seeing you, and it scared the crap out of me. But at that time, I was also really into, like, I don't know if you remember, like the Montel Williams show, where he would have like Sylvia Brown come on as the medium. Yeah. So my mom would always put Montel on every Wednesday. So even before this happened for me, I was aware of what, psychics or mediums could do. And also living in upstate New York, in a place where spiritualism is very popular because it kind of originated there. Mm-hmm. I started learning and developing as a medium around like 18 years old. Like I just showed up at a spiritualist church where the mediums kind of took me under their wing, and I was training in meditation and physical mediumship. And so anyways, so my journey started a long time ago. Okay. So I started working with families and as a medium, as a channel, bringing in people that they've lost. So friends, family members on the other side that passed away, I would bring messages to their family to help facilitate with a healing process. Mm-hmm. So it started a long time ago. So I'm still doing that. I'm still, when people need to sit with me, I'm still able to do that via Zoom. But that's Good. Not my focus right now. But it's just one of the things. It's how I kind of started.
Gotcha. So since then, you've kind of gone and branched out.
Yeah.
In quite a few ways.
Yes. Yeah. So when you're working as a medium, right? For me, anyway, when I work as a medium, I work in the light, meaning I connect with, I put my intention out there to connect with nothing but the highest and the best. So of source energy, right? So unconditional love energy. My intention is only to connect with anything as high as love. So nothing lower. So I've never actually had an experience with a ghost, like communicating with a ghost or earthbound spirit, only because my intention in that session is always to connect with someone in the spirit world, in heaven, right? Yeah. So basically the first 33 years of my life, most of the time I was just in the light, work, just focusing on love and light, right? High vibes. And so at 33, my life kind of cracked, my personal life, my relationship. And so I spiraled. Even as a mom, I was a mom at 33 of 4 kids under the age of 7. So I was very stressed out. There was a relationship that I lost, and I went into this deep depression. And I a friend of mine said that he took ayahuasca, he went to Brazil and it changed his life, and that he was taking psilocybin mushrooms to microdose. And he said, Jackie, why don't you take psilocybin? And I thought, you know what, like I'm in such a bad place. What if maybe this could do something, because I feel like nothing can besides alcohol. Alcohol was like numbing me at that time, right? So I took, I think it was like 2.3 grams of psilocybin mushrooms. I did have him on the phone with me and a couple other people to help guide me as I went through that journey, because, there was no kids that weekend. So I thought this is the perfect weekend for me to kind of go inward. So I had the experience with the mushrooms. They spoke to me. They explained that you're living in your mind in a state of fear and you're missing out on the oneness of this life. And so they allowed me to feel, and even in my bones, the feeling of pure oneness, which was amazing. And so they really were able to show me my own shadow, my ego, my mind, but then also oneness, and how I was choosing to live from my mind in a state of fear, and how that place was affecting my entire journey and what I was manifesting at that time. And so once I realized that, it lifted my depression for about almost 6 months. I didn't even want to drink alcohol anymore. I wasn't anxious anymore. And so this, I was still doing sessions, when I could, if I was in a good place mentally, because at the time I was out. But one time I went to go visit this couple who wanted a reading, and I went to their house. I did this reading for this couple, and they said they wanted to gift me DMT as an offering. And are you familiar with DMT?
Only because I have one of my friends that has done that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So DMT is actually it's natural. It actually exists in our brain. So, but the way that I took it was in the form of smoking it. And so when I took this DMT, it allowed me to have another really profound spiritual experience, where I actually saw like entities, like spirits. And so DMT also is known as the spirit molecule. So when people take DMT, for example, that's actually what's in ayahuasca, you are able to see entities or spirits. And so in that experience, I got to see my own spirit guides, which I've worked with for years as a medium. So this was kind of like the path of psychedelics and how it kind of was flowing into my life for in synchronetic ways, I guess you would say.
Gotcha. Yeah. Was there any similarities between the DMT and the psilocybin mushrooms at all?
I think to be honest with you, not really. Actually, not really, other than the feeling, like that feeling of just pure oneness and love. You don't want to leave that place.
Yeah.
I think, with the mushrooms, they speak to you, it's the mushrooms, they're master teachers, right? And the mushrooms are also all knowing. So when you take them, they know everything about you. They talk to you. They know what traumas you've been through. And so what they were telling me, it was just like, oh my God, you know me. And it wasn't scary either. It was just kind of like going to see like Mr. Miyagi. And they're just kind of telling you like, focus on this. And this is where you're messing up. And they will show you images of things that are still holding you back, certain traumas. And they always, like from my experience working with mushrooms, and they're always, it's a different species, but it's also, they radiate different levels of awareness too. So for example, one time I did psychedelic mushrooms, and the species, it was very much non-duality. Like it was, I can't explain it, but basically what you're feeling is very similar. And for me, every psychedelic experience, the feeling is always similar, but what I'm receiving is always different.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I'm wondering, with the psilocybin and the mushrooms, do you think that there has been some walls that have been built in our own mind, and maybe those are just bringing those walls down to where they should be naturally anyway?
Yeah, well, I think the walls that are built that we kind of build for ourselves are, for
Mhm.
example, like distractions, right? So
Okay.
like the amount of distractions that we have now, we have, access to the internet, we have AI, we have all the tools. And so I think a lot of what the walls that I'm seeing is the distractions, the things that we're choosing to uh, do and what we're doing with them. Like people that
Okay.
are doomsday scrolling, right? It's going to block you from accessing higher states of consciousness that, like, for example, I think you and I spoke briefly about the pineal gland, right? And
Yes.
like the things in the food and the water that are actually
Thank you.
calcifying the pineal gland.
Exactly what I'm getting to.
Right. And I
Yes.
think that there's a correlation between the pineal gland with our own DMT, which is, I think, in the other part of the brain.
Yeah, and I would think that, with 5G and what the radiation that the cell phones are giving off, and I think they do that on purpose to kind of block us from
Right.
reaching those higher states of consciousness, because I do think that you don't necessarily need to take um, DMT or
Right.
psychedelic
Psychedelics.
mushrooms to achieve that. I've heard that people can actually do like a breathing technique to get there as
Correct.
well.
Yes.
Um, and I'm wondering if let's say back in the 60s or even before then, even shaman, way back in what, the 15, 14, 1300s,
Right.
we're doing things to reach those higher states of consciousness, besides the psychedelics. They were using some other means of that, and
Mhm.
it seems to me that technology today is blocking all of that, and they don't want
Yes.
us to achieve it.
Right. Well, I mean, even if you think about, I think it was at the time of Vietnam, right, when
Mhm.
they actually banned psychedelics because hippies are waking up to the reality of why are we going to war? And so I think
Mhm.
around that time is when they actually put the ban on psychedelics because they knew that if they could keep people in a state of fear, then they can control them more. And
Yeah.
so I think also, the times even of the Egyptians, right? The Egyptians and the stuff and the symbols are starting to now discover what those meanings are. Back then they didn't have AI and they didn't even have internet. They did none of that. But how are they able to receive all of these amazing channelings from even other star systems, in these communities? And so it just shows you that they were able to access those higher states of consciousness, but maybe even with them being so present was
Yeah,
what.
like the Oracle of Delphi. I remember hearing that, these women would sit in this area where they were getting these noxious gases from a vent from the earth, and they would actually go into these trances and be able to, predict the future accurately, and things like that, even way back then.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
yeah, you should look that up. It's the
Oh,
Oracle
I
of Delphi.
will.
It's pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. So I'm just,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's us, we just want to know more about who we are, and I believe that we can reach those states. And that's why I was so excited to get you on, because I really, unfortunately I can't do the psychedelics, because maybe when I retire, that's fine. But right now I
Yeah.
can't. I just am
You know,
blocked from it. So
yeah, what I will say, and again, this is actually coming from experience, right? So,
mhm.
one time I did a small retreat in Florida, and it was a small group of people. And one of my friends came and he actually offered to do, a small little breathwork experience because he was practicing and he thought this would be a good opportunity for him to maybe, practice teaching breathwork. And so he had us all lay down in a circle. He said, close your eyes, I'm going to play some music and you're going to focus on your breath. And
Mhm.
I can't tell you, like, I wouldn't be able to tell you what his words were. Like, I have no idea what he was saying, because I was getting in such a high place where it felt like I was dreaming. And then all of a sudden, I remember seeing a vision of my dad and myself on his snowmobile. And I remember the feeling of like the snowmobile and the smell of the snow. And it took me back there. And then I saw all these visions. And again, this is all stuff of memory that was just being unlocked because I was accessing those higher states of consciousness, being in that almost altered state just by using my breath. And so I think, for people that cannot do psychedelics, I think that breath work is an amazing tool to tap into. They got videos on YouTube, even people that are breathwork facilitators offering sessions virtually now. So I feel like if we were all able to access those places, naturally, yes, that would be great. But for some, especially, some that hit rock bottom, or some people that are just, they're struggling, whether that's with addiction or with mental health, for them, breath work may not be it for them,
right.
And so by lifting a lot of that, which is again, like whether that's psilocybin or even ayahuasca, those are amazing tools, because these tools of plant medicine are helping us to unlock what we are suppressing or repressing within us so that we're able to move forward.
Yeah. And I understand as well that they're using a lot of psilocybin or some psilocybin in people that have dealt with PTSD.
Yeah.
And it should be becoming legal at some point.
Right. Well, if you look at Oregon, I think that they were, maybe the first state that legalized psilocybin in some of like their centers, right? So I think even the Changa Institute is one of the institutes in Oregon where people, that can come in and pay cash. You don't need, health insurance to be able to get this, but they have trained facilitators and practitioners and even doctors that will take you under the medicine, in a really safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To deal with trauma that people have gone through. Yeah.
A lot of it is these tools are actually helping us make the unconscious conscious. And I think that's where a lot of the words consciousness are coming alive now all over the internet, because, and even, it's being thrown around even as a buzzword, but I feel like people are curious, how can I become more conscious? Well, it's by making the unconscious conscious, right? So by becoming curious about what are the things that are holding us back, and triggers, right? When you're triggered and you get just pissed off and, they say, sit with that trigger. Well, I think the sitting with a trigger is becoming curious of why you're getting triggered in the first place. And there could be some stuff there where you can just play detective and figure out okay, maybe I'm just pissed off because, my father treated me terrible. And now there's expectations of me. And, so I think, the tools that, psychedelics are allowing us to have, these tools that are sacred also, because there are spirits it's that consciousness behind every plant. So when you sit with these plants, even cannabis, they're there to show you something that you're unaware of. So that allows you to become more conscious.
So you believe that there's an actual soul within the plant?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Okay. Yeah. I believe that everything is alive. My thought is that, all plants and anything that, is matter could possibly be alive, even like the earth itself. Right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So if it has its own, do they have their own agenda then?
Again, it really depends on your intention. I can't stress how important that is when you're using any kind of plant medicine, even cannabis. cannabis is she's a great mirror to you, right? So cannabis will always reflect what is already going on within you. And if people knew how to use cannabis, it could change your life. Just like, even the food that we consume, right? When we look at what's on our plate and we can connect with even the food and going and thanking the food, now you're changing the frequency of that food, and even water, and it's going into the body. And so now all of a sudden you're feeling really amazing.
I've heard that people that play, certain music to their water and stuff like that will actually make it healthier for you. I mean, and talking good to it and saying it's such a nice water, you're going to be in such a high vibrational place and blah, blah, whatever you're going to say to it. But I hear that does affect water. So that's really interesting. And it also affects plants.
Mm-hmm. Actually, there's this thing that I learned on Instagram with my kids, where if you take water and you pour it onto a plate, right, just a regular plate, and you ask the water to show you a flower, and then you freeze it. Once it's frozen, you take it out, and you can actually take like a magnifying glass and I think a flashlight, and you'll actually see the water create the flower. Like, water is actually incredibly intelligent. And so when you say good words to it, you can actually change the taste. It's really interesting.
That's amazing. I mean, that almost brings me into the thought that we have a living, transformative universe that we can affect in some way. That's crazy cool. So let's get into some of the stranger things that you've witnessed or heard of. I know that you sometimes take people into these spaces. You're a person that if somebody's going to do ayahuasca or something like that sometimes you'll be on Zoom with them or be a guide in some way. Is that correct?
So, never on Zoom. I will never sit with anyone if they're taking ayahuasca on Zoom. I don't suggest it.
Okay.
So there was an ayahuasca church in Florida that I consumed ayahuasca at a couple times. And it changed my life to the point where I wanted to be there to hold space for someone who was also going through it. We call it going through the trenches. So it's like ayahuasca, Mother Ayahuasca will speak to you. She will show you your trauma. She will show you what's preventing you from moving forward. Okay. And so because it had such a profound effect on me, I started volunteering as a space holder at this ayahuasca church retreat place in Florida. So I was able to hold space for people taking the medicine, and then some of them would explain to me some of their journeys, and I would listen to them. I would hold space for them. I'd hold the bucket for them because there's, it's a physical purge that happens. Yeah. But I will say the purge, though, like, she will tell you what you're purging, like what you're getting rid of. And so it's actually, it's pretty, even though it sounds disgusting, it's actually like pretty interesting as to like what you're releasing. So I've done that. So the church no longer exists in Florida. And also I've moved out of Florida. So I was also taking people under psilocybin. So I would have small groups of people, we would meet in a sacred space, and for 2 nights we would take the medicine of psilocybin, as well as taking, I don't know if you ever heard of HAPE, HAPE. No, so it's a non-psychoactive plant medicine that we can actually, purchase online, but it's basically tobacco that's grown in Brazil. And so it's not like the tobacco that's, in cigarettes here. This is actually like pure tobacco grown by shamans in Brazil, and they mash it down into a powder, as well as they'll take certain roots, like the ayahuasca root they'll take other plants and flowers. And the HAPE is something that people like myself will also use. So you can have like really profound spiritual experiences, because you're learning how to be present, and the energy of these plants will show you things that will also maybe unlock some of the trauma, or it's really good for people that are addicted to alcohol or struggling with mental health. So anyway, so in some of my little mini retreats where I would have people take psilocybin, I would have them take hape first. And so my own experiences, though, have been far different than other people's experiences. And I believe it's because since I was 17, I was able to see spirit. So I already know how to connect, with the spirit world, and access that, I guess, altered, state of consciousness by meditating. So I feel like sometimes that's why my spiritual experiences may be different taking plant medicine. So for me, I may not need as much as somebody else might need taking plant medicine.
Yeah. Well, I have just been there, but maybe once I retire, I can try some of this stuff. But I don't know that I would ever smoke anything. That's just not me. That's not who I am. If I was to do anything, it would be oral, I think. But yeah, it's interesting to me that lately I've been hearing about this subject, and then you came along and we kind of talked about you coming on the show. And the majority of the things that I've been hearing lately are people are seeing similar entities once they go into these places. And my first thought in my mind is like, well, are they seeing their higher self, or is this something completely separate from what we are?
Right. So when, for example, when you take ayahuasca, right, it's a mother energy. It's a feminine energy. Sometimes she'll show her face being really old. Sometimes she will not show her face at all. Some people have, explained that she is this like being with flowers coming out of her, with roots coming out of her. So everyone's experience with ayahuasca and seeing her has always been very different. So she chooses to show up differently, whatever way that you're ready to receive her. And also there are some people, though, just from me holding space for others, they have seen, I think I told you, a friend of mine has seen Odin and things like these Viking symbols. And again, it's like, this is his lineage stuff, but he never explored that, but they're showing themselves to him because he's ready to know. And some people will see master beings, sometimes Jesus, sometimes Magdalene, even past lives. I was shown past lives of who I once was. So not in this life, but just, and again, and what I also saw actually matched up with the things that I would talk about as a child. So I know, like, when I saw it, I knew, oh, that's why I had a fear of this, or that's, fear of water, fear of drowning. Psilocybin explained to me why I have such a fear of dark water. Well, it's because you drowned in this life. And so the plants want to be able to help us. I feel like it's because humanity is going down the spiral of being so disconnected from themselves and so distracted with everything going on, politics, everything's right. So I feel like the plants are now trying to get our attention to sit with them and kind of go inward so that consciousness can grow even as a collective, right? The collective consciousness to grow and expand.
Yeah, the way I'm thinking about it, there's an echo. Do you have a speaker or something on there that's coming back, reverberating?
I'm not sure. I wonder if I should disconnect from these.
Okay. Anyway, so I see it like a rubber band where, we stretch that rubber band and then it retracts, and we stretch that rubber band and it retracts. Right now we're going through this stretching of the rubber band, and I'm starting to feel like it's probably starting to retract. And why I say that is that we are so much into technology right now and everything that's on the outside, right? That now people are starting to claw back. They want to know what's inside. You know what I mean? It seems like we have gone to the extreme about caring about, everything that happens on the outside of us, that we have no choice but to get to a point to where we need to look inwards. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like psychedelics is one way to do that. Um, and if it does, if mushrooms, psilocybin does become legal, I think you'll see a lot of people waking up. I think it might be a happier place. You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
existence that we're living in right now, if people can connect with their higher selves or with these other entities to go back and maybe heal some of that past trauma that they've
Yeah.
endured. But it sounds like it's not just healing trauma in one lifetime. It sounds like, from what you're saying, it's possible to heal trauma from previous lifetimes as well,
Right.
like you were talking about the dark water and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting to me. Well, if you have these fears in this lifetime, like I'm going to tell you right now, my son has a great fear of elevators. He has had it for a
Really
long time, right? Being in
interesting.
the metal box where he can't see out, and he freaks the heck out about it,
Oh,
but yet he wants to be a pilot, right? Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But God bless his soul, he wants to be a pilot, and so darn it, he's going to do it. He's going into ROTC. But the thing is there is those past traumas that have affected us.
mm-hmm.
So something like this, like you're talking about, to go in there and heal those things, that's a great, valuable, very valuable thing to have.
Right. Hmm. Well, even like what I was saying with breath work, right? So like breath work now, like it's becoming more and more popular because people are realizing like, am I that powerful where I could actually see, repress memories? Because for me, like I don't have a lot of memories of my childhood for whatever reason, and so that's why when I did the breath work, it was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about the smell of snowmobile gas, and I forgot about all this, and with my dad and my grandmother, and so I just feel like, psychedelics, but also breath work, if when we start learning these tools, makes us very powerful.
How far do you think we can go with this? I mean, here we are on Earth, right? And apparently, when we're on the other side, we're elsewhere. Do you think that you can through using psychedelics? Do you think that we can experience what it's like to have that life between lives sort of thing?
Um, so you're saying, are we able to take psychedelics to experience, to see or
To
experience that?
see the life between lives sort of thing. Yeah.
Um, I will say, based on my experience with ayahuasca, because I asked her about that. I said, "Where am I from?" And she said, "Well, you live in many places." And so she let me go to this one planet. It looked similar to Earth, but it had less water, more trees. These trees are like 4 times the size of the redwoods. There was a city that was made of metal. It was all one metal. It was beautiful. And so I said, "Why did I come to Earth?" And she said, "Why would you help your brother?" So she made it sound like I go to multiple planets, just kind of like, if you think about it, like, oh, I want to live in California for a couple of years, and then I think I'm going to move out to London. Same thing. That's how our souls experience other planets. This isn't all it for us, right? So yes, when I took psychedelics, she confirmed that for me, that yes, we go to different planets. It's not within this particular universe. It's outside. The Pleiadians it is real. Pleiades is a real deal. So yes, it's almost like, again, it's not that I needed to know that, but the tool, she was able to show that to me to validate some of that stuff, because I never felt like I belonged here.
It's funny you mentioned that. I get that. I get that. Totally get that. Yeah, it's like I feel like my mother isn't really my mother, and I don't know where I get that from, but it's I've always felt that way, and I don't know
Yeah.
why. even though I definitely do look like her. It's just, yeah. So maybe that's where some of that comes from, right? Is that we have other lives somewhere else. And I wonder if
I
we
think
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I also, from my understanding, just from mediumship, I believe that we choose our families, that we're born into, and most of the time it's karmic families. So we choose the most difficult lineage to incarnate into, which is why most of us, come here and we're just like, what the hell is this? For like the black sheep, right? And so
Mhm.
you may not, like for me, I'm the black sheep of my family, but we still get along. There's still love. It's just that sense of, man, like I just don't feel like I fit in here or I belong in this unit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. In this meat bag that we're in.
Meat soup.
Right.
Yeah.
Meat suit, meat sack, whatever it is. Yeah, so that's really interesting. I've always wondered if we could get beyond this reality with psychedelics and get to that other place where we may come from, or another reality, if we can view that. Past
Mm-hmm.
lives you've already mentioned, which is fantastic, but yeah, other realities is really interesting to me. Um, the fact that our souls might be inhabiting more than one body at the same time.
Yeah.
And what is it from your perception? Why are we here in the first place? What is our job here?
Right. So from my own belief, okay, I believe that we're here to evolve in consciousness and we're here to grow. And we have to do this collectively. So for example, like all the humans on this planet, right? The energy of the planet, you can see the planet is out of balance, right? There's all kinds of volcanoes going on right now, forest fires, all earthquakes.
Mhm.
It's all rattling right now. Everything's out of balance, right? So I feel like that's a reflection of where humanity is as well in our own collective consciousness, that, yeah, the people are out of balance. And so it's literally, again, asking us to wake up to the fact that maybe we are not within us, we are out of balance, right? So as a collective, as a community of humans, it is our job to go within and kind of look at, turn the light on and kind of look at our crap, and so the more that we step out of this, crap, the more that we step out of it, it really lifts us up, and we have more compassion, we have more empathy for other humans, and we see beyond people for who, whatever trauma that they went through. We're able to see them as a human with feelings, with emotions. And I feel like humanity has lost that, right?
Mm.
We've lost that connection with each
So
other.
so self-absorbed, right?
Right. Yeah. So I feel like, yes, it's to grow and evolve and as a collective consciousness, and even as our own individual consciousness, right? To keep evolving no matter what, because we're always changing. But for me, I remember one of the things ayahuasca said to me. She was almost screaming at me, and she was like, "I needed you here." Like, and I've heard this from other people that have taken ayahuasca, that they were on other planets living their own life, and when they heard the call from Earth, I need help, their soul decided to incarnate here. And which is why, like right now, this is like the perfect time for humanity to come together, but we've all prepared for this. A lot of us that are sitting here on podcasts, and even the ones listening to it, are being pulled into it because we know we came here for a bigger reason. But it's really to just grow as individuals and to come together so that the stuff with the forest fires isn't so bad and Earth can calm down a little bit, because again, we're all energetically weaved in and connected to each other like a spider's web.
Yeah. Okay. Just I'm gonna talk to the crowd that's typing in here. If you guys can help me by watching a bunch of the chat, I am unable to have a coherent conversation and watch the chat at some time. So please, you wrenches out there, if you would watch the chat for me. If you see anything come up that's inappropriate, please slam the hammer down. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So yeah, the whole thing with expanding our consciousness, with these drugs, and then realizing that we are pulling, instead of coming back to, the collective, we're actually we're ripping ourselves apart from the collective. And it seems to me like what you're saying is that with psilocybin and other drugs, that you're able to see that maybe we need to pull together and have more cohesive oneness, to heal, because right now there's so many horrible things going on this planet.
Right.
That it is time to bond together and not be at each other's throats so much.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you, is that pretty much, you were saying that's mostly coming from ayahuasca, is that correct?
No, I mean, it's coming from, psilocybin, it's coming from even ketamine treatments that people are doing now, which is actually really good for like PTSD and depression. And, even like non-psychoactive medicine, such as hape, this is, again, it's a plant teacher that will actually teach you how to connect with your heart and become more grounded. And then also like breath work, right? So that's a really powerful way of like accessing that other part of our brain and accessing the things that we've suppressed.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing is here on Spaced Out Radio, we do not talk politics, because we do not want to leave anybody out, no matter who you are, no matter what race you are, no matter what religion you are, no matter what you believe in, and as far as politics, because division will rot us, period. So I welcome everybody to be freaking nice here. All right. And if I see anything that is negative, I will put you in timeout, or even worse. So yeah, I've already seen it, and I already had to put somebody in timeout for that. So please, guys, do not do that. This is a show about oneness, and that's what we need to concentrate on, so that we don't implode. Pretty frank about that. So there we are. Okay, don't let me sick Dave on you. All right, so let's move on. What are some of your most memorable experiences
with ayahuasca? Like with okay,
or any of it, basically?
Yeah. So I would say when it comes like with psilocybin, right? So my brother passed away, he passed away from an overdose with fentanyl. And this was in 2023. And even being a medium, like if your loved one passes away, there's so much emotion that it could actually like block you from being able to connect. And so I took psilocybin with the intention to connect with my brother, to make sure that he's okay, to talk to him. And so actually psilocybin allowed me to have a full-blown conversation with my brother. And so I was able to receive the healing that I needed, because I wasn't able to talk to him before all that went down. So like that was a really powerful experience for me. And I also got to, cry and release some of that emotion of grief. So that was powerful. With ayahuasca, she actually, so I told you that she showed me the past life, right? And that was to help me remember who I was, because she said, you have these kids and you feel like you can't do this life on your own. And she said, you can. And that's when she showed me the past life of, being a queen in another life. And so that was to help me remember who I am and what I'm capable of, because I've done other things much bigger before. So that was big. And then with ayahuasca, she also helped me see my dad's wounds as well as my mom's wounds. So my parents were alcoholics, and my dad passed away of lung cancer. And so, when I took ayahuasca, I always put my dad on a pedestal, right? And so I never knew like how he felt on the inside, because men, like, they don't usually tell you how they're feeling. So I always assumed my dad was just this happy. He loved his beer, loved fishing. And, that's all I knew of my dad. That was the side I saw. Well, ayahuasca showed me that my dad was actually drinking himself because there was so much pain caused from the divorce with my mom and other things that I didn't even know about. And then she also showed me my mom's wounds. And, I always resented my mom for like how she treated my dad. And so my mother ayahuasca showed me how my mom was actually like verbally abused by her mother and put down. And so it actually helped me, have compassion for my mom. So my relationship with my mom changed after that, which is actually changed the dynamics in the family.
So you were actually able to see other people from behind, in basically being able to see how they are treated previously.
Yes.
To know, that's incredible.
And again, like my mom, like she never told me any of this stuff. And my dad was deceased, so he was unable to. So, but the images that I got to see of my dad on his boat, things that I haven't seen, and also the verbal abuse coming from my grandmother to my mom, her mom, was just, I couldn't believe it. So, and it explained so much as to why my mom treated us kids a certain way.
Now, do you believe that it's because you have some extraordinary abilities, or do you think that that ayahuasca was able to show you this?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with my abilities, only because there were people that I sat and took ayahuasca with, because you usually take ayahuasca with a small group of people. It could be 10 people, it could be 20 people. And so listening to other people's experiences the next day, they found out, there was a couple that found out they were abused as a child and saw everything that their 3-year-old self, the memories were there, but, they couldn't access them. And then there was others that saw the lineage stuff of their great grandfather and wars and stuff happening. And so it's things that were happening in the lineage. So it was like in the DNA, and she was just showing it to you so that those parts of you could be healed. So yeah, I know it wasn't a medium thing.
I am just blown away right now. I had no idea. I really didn't. I didn't know that it would take you that deep to where you could see the past of your family and your lineage to find out what happened to them, and then it would tell you why things happened to you.
Right.
That's very interesting. I forgave my stepfather for beating me when I was a kid. I forgave him, I don't know, a couple of years ago when I was going to therapy, because it was something that I needed to do for myself.
Right.
But what you're telling me is now it makes me think, well, I could see what happened to him to make him the way he was to me, and have a larger understanding about it, which right now I don't need because I've forgiven him. Right. But it would have been interesting information to have before, with that struggle that I dealt with for so many years, until I got to the point where I did forgive him.
Oh,
it's amazing. It's amazing that this plant medicine can do such a thing. Right.
Yeah. And it's nice too, because, like as she was showing this to me, it wasn't just me watching this stuff and like, what is this? It was actually her showing it to me, but she was talking to me at the same time. She's, like when I saw my dad, she was like, your dad, you want to see your dad? He really is wounded. And then it was like, boom, boom, boom. And, and so she actually talks, and again, it's not to scare you, but it's to make you aware of the things that you may have not have known, why he drank. Well, he drank for these many reasons, and why he lived the way that he lived. So, so it was like seeing the stuff, but then she was your guide, and she's the medicine of the heart too. So the only, I feel like every plant works with you very differently. For example, the mushrooms, they know everything.
Mhm.
They're going to put you through the ringer because it's not really, they don't really care about opening up your heart. They're just giving you all the information that you need to heal. Whereas Mother Ayahuasca, she's the plant medicine of your heart. So she's going to go into your heartbreak. She's going to go into the things that, your divorce, people you've lost, the things that cause you a lot of grief and pain. Those are the areas that she's going to focus on the most.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that has anything to do with our higher self communicating with the plant to show us if there's a duality there, if that's something that they're working in tandem with. Did you ever get that sense?
I would say I never really saw my higher self on plant medicine. However, I saw my inner child, which was, like the part of me, the child within me that I was neglecting. So, like, for example, in one of my journeys with ayahuasca, she said, "Oh, you don't wear makeup anymore. You don't do this for yourself. You don't play dress up. You don't play." And then she actually allowed me to see my inner child suffering with me not playing. Even like I'm just playing the role of mom in my personal life, right? So there was no play. So what she was showing me was that part of me that was so frustrated was because I wasn't giving into the child within me to do things for myself that, were childlike and happy. So for me, I never saw my higher self. It was, again, and I think it has a lot to do with the reason, my intention using the medicine. I wasn't curious about my higher self. I was curious about what's wrong with me. I need to get fixed, right? And I think that's most people, when they take psychedelics, like, I need to fix myself, right? Even though we're all perfectly imperfect, but yeah.
There's a lot of people that take psychedelics because they want to experience, have a good time or fun time or something like that. And they're not looking at it like medicine.
Right.
Right.
And and this is where I feel like, when people have those bad trips, I feel like it's, what was their intention going into that? Because if it was for the intention of having a good time, the medicine has its own consciousness. It's going to cause you pain to teach you not to, abuse that plant in that way. Actually, I had a friend of mine who he was taking mushrooms because he wanted to work on some of the stuff that he was trying to fix and heal. And he kept taking them. And all of a sudden he was in a really dark place, like a bad trip that lasted a very long time. It was very scary. And he, at the end of it, the mushroom said, "And don't come back until you've integrated what we've already shown you." So he was almost using the medicine, thinking, "Give me more, show me more." And when you do that, there could be some repercussions that come from that because the plant has its own intelligence.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing, actually. How can people get in touch with you?
So they'd have to probably go to my website, which is thesacredoracle.org, or I will actually be in Oregon this November. My partner and we've opened up a non-for-profit, which will focus on, healing trauma, mental health. And so we've created a festival that will be in Portland, and that'll be in November. But this is where we're actually going to be able to have conversations on psychedelics. In fact, a couple of the psilocybin centers in Oregon will be there. There'll be people speaking about psychedelics, some keynote speakers, and that's also where you'll find me, because right now I'm focusing a lot on building that foundation nationwide, but it'll be in Portland this fall. So they can find me there. That's so the name of the festival is Evolve and Unite.
Yeah.
And so that'll be taking place in Portland. So
Wonderful.
they can come there.
Well, I've definitely appreciated having you on the show, and I've learned a lot, which is what I always try to do when we have these shows, learn something, and I did. Thank you very much for that. And I do appreciate it. I will be back on later with Dave Scott between 11 and 12 for the Q&A. You all, so you can hang out for that. And I do appreciate you coming on once again. Thank you very much. And if you would just hang back in the green room for me while I hit the intro, and I'll get back to you.
All right. See you there.
All right. Good night, guys. I will see you all later. Dave's up next. This is Lee Strauss with Element 115, and I'm out.